Opendoor stock just exploded in the aftermarket. On the back of its blockbuster leadership announcement, shares of Open surged by 42.5%, finishing after hours at $8.35 a share. That's a gain of $2.49 in a single session. Let's be clear, this is not just noise. This is the market reacting to a seismic shift at Opendoor, and it's the clearest signal yet that the turnaround story is gaining serious traction. So what drove this move? It all comes down to Wednesday's board reshuffle and the introduction of new CEO Kaz Nejatian, along with the return of co-founders Rabois and Eric Wu to the board. Add in the $40 million of insider pipe financing from Khosla Ventures and Wu himself, and you've got the recipe for renewed confidence, fresh capital, and a leadership team built for transformation. Let's start with Kaz Nejatian. After 6 years at Shopify, where he served as Chief Operating Officer and Vice President of Product, Kaz has built a reputation as an operator who knows how to scale platforms, unlock efficiency, and drive product innovation. But what really sets him apart is his AI-first mindset. In his first public statement as Opendoor CEO, he laid out not just his vision for the company, but his philosophy on why this mission matters. And it's powerful. Kaz isn't just talking about homes. He's talking about ownership. He's talking about what it means for families, for communities, for societies. He reminded us that homeowners vote more, volunteer more, and invest more in their neighborhoods. That ownership reduces crime, strengthens families, and builds trust in institutions. He tied the mission of Opendoor to nothing less than the fabric of society itself. And he did it with data, with history, and with conviction. That kind of leadership message resonates. It tells investors, employees, and customers that this isn't just about flipping houses. This is about building a generational company, one that empowers the promise of the West, one that unlocks opportunity for millions, and one that uses AI to make home ownership more accessible, more affordable, and more transparent than ever before. And when you combine that vision with the founder DNA of Rabois and Wu, the message is clear: Opendoor isn't drifting anymore. It's focused. It's energized. And it's putting leadership back in the hands of people who understand its original mission. Rabois isn't just returning to the board, he's stepping in as chairman. Eric Wu isn't just coming back as an advisor, he's investing his own money alongside Khosla Ventures. These are powerful signals of conviction. This is exactly what activist investor Eric Jackson has been calling for all along. For weeks, he's been pushing the thesis that Opendoor isn't a meme stock, it's a cult stock, a company in the middle of transformation, with the potential to become the Amazon of real estate. He's been campaigning outside Drake's house, speaking on Fox News, and rallying retail under the Open Army banner. And now, the thesis is being validated. The board has listened. The founders are back. And the company has an AI-native CEO to lead the next chapter. No wonder the stock ripped higher in the aftermarket. But let's be honest, it's not just about the announcement. It's about what comes next. And here's where things get really interesting. Next week, the Federal Reserve is set to announce its latest interest rate decision. Increasingly, the expectation is that the Fed will cut rates. If that happens, it's rocket fuel for Opendoor's business model. Lower mortgage costs mean more affordability, more transactions, and more opportunities for Opendoor to do what it does best: streamline the process of buying and selling homes. So now we have two forces converging. On one side, a company that has just realigned its leadership, recharged its mission, and restated its long-term vision in the most compelling way yet. On the other side, a macro backdrop that looks set to provide tailwinds in the form of lower rates and increased housing activity. Together, those forces create the perfect setup for momentum. And let's not forget about the shorts. As of the latest figures, roughly 24% of the float is still sold short. That's around 155 million shares betting against Opendoor. In recent days, as the stock cooled after its earlier rally, more shorts piled in, expecting the momentum to fade. But now, with Wednesday's announcement and Kaz's vision front and center, those shorts are in trouble. Because every move higher adds pressure. Every aftermarket surge brings margin calls closer. And every day that retail conviction holds firm increases the risk of a squeeze. We've already seen what this stock can do when momentum builds. 5 straight green days, nearly 50% gains, before the pullback earlier this week. Now, with fresh catalysts, the stage is set for another leg higher. I won't be surprised if Opendoor hits double digits before the end of this week. That's not hyperbole. That's looking at the setup, the leadership reset, the Fed's pending decision, the activist validation, the short interest, and connecting the dots. And let's take a moment to appreciate just how important Kaz's words were in his statement. He talked about home ownership as the foundation of stable societies. He pointed to Alexis de Tocqueville's observations 200 years ago about how ownership strengthens democracy and community. He made it clear that Opendoor isn't just chasing profits, it's chasing impact. And in doing so, he reframed the company as not just a disruptor, but as a builder of something lasting, something transformative. For investors, that's the kind of narrative you want to hear. It builds confidence, it inspires conviction, and it aligns perfectly with the thesis that this isn't a flash-in-the-pan trade. This is a long-term story of reinvention. Now, some will say, it's just words. But let's not forget, leadership matters. Vision matters. And execution follows conviction. Kaz's track record at Shopify proves he knows how to scale a platform. His AI-first approach shows he knows where the puck is going. And his statement about ownership shows he understands the human element of this mission. Combine that with Rabois' track record as one of Silicon Valley's most successful investors, and Wu's history as the company's original CEO, and you have a leadership team that blends vision, execution, and credibility. This is the team you want in place when you're trying to transform a trillion-dollar industry. So where does that leave us heading into Thursday's pre-market? It leaves us with a stock that just surged 42% in after-hours trading. It leaves us with optimism peaking, with retail conviction soaring, and with shorts staring down a setup they can't ignore. It leaves us with a company that has restored founder DNA, added an AI-native CEO, and secured fresh insider investment. And it leaves us with a macro backdrop that could deliver a tailwind as soon as next week with a Fed rate cut. That's not just bullish. That's explosive. For me, the takeaway is simple. This is what transformation looks like. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in pieces: leadership changes, product milestones, activist campaigns, macro catalysts. And when those pieces start to align, that's when momentum shifts. That's when sentiment flips. And that's when cult stocks like Opendoor move from being speculative trades to being generational opportunities. Eric Jackson has been saying it all along: Opendoor has the potential to be the Amazon of real estate. Wednesday's announcement makes that thesis more believable than ever. Because now the company has the leadership, the capital, and the conviction to actually make it happen. So if you've been watching from the sidelines, ask yourself, how many more signals do you need? If you've been holding through the volatility, today's aftermarket surge is your validation. And if you've been short, well, today's news should make you rethink your position. Opendoor is no longer just a stock defending $6 support. It's a company redefining what's possible in real estate. With Kaz Nejatian at the helm, with Rabois as chairman, with Wu back on the board, and with the open army louder than ever, the future looks brighter than it has in years. And the market just woke up to that reality. Buckle up. The next chapter has begun. And if today's aftermarket surge is any indication, this ride is far from over.